Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk and walk you through around the BCP DR, right? So what is it and how you can go ahead and achieve it into the cloud environments, right? Now, BCP DR is something which is been used and not only used, but that is becoming a primary and foremost important activity for any of those business applications which are hosted in the cloud, right? Those are hosted in the cloud because of different reasons, from cost perspective, from flexibility, from management, and from all those scenarios which cannot be really achieved into the on-premises as well as into the private data centers or hybrid cloud scenarios as well, right? Now, those are the different scenarios or reasons I would say where those are not achievable, and even into the private cloud or into the scenarios where we have our own data center and we wanted to achieve BCP, that is going to become an additional work, right? So that's going to be additional capacity to build, additional workload, additional overheading, right? So everything is going to be the duplicate to do that. But into the cloud, it is going to be something that is easy in a way where uh, we would simply spin up the resources and make sure those would be available on demand, basically, right? So let's go ahead and I'll walk you through how we can do that, what are the different options and strategies for the same, and the way it is going to be utilized and how it is going to be helpful as well, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Before that, let me share my screen here so that I can walk you through. All right. So how you can achieve BCP, DR, business continuity, and disaster recovery in cloud environments, right? So let's start across Azure AKS infrastructure PaaS multi-cloud strategies. So it is going to be applied for all the cloud platforms basically, but I have put it in this way so that it is easy to understand, right? So starting, what is BCP DR basically, right? So BCP is going to ensure business processes continues running during interruptions. Now, those interruptions could be anything, right? For example, the primary node goes down or the system itself goes down, then the system should automatically be picked up from the another region or another workload wherever it is set up as a disaster recovery, right? And DR is going to focus on recovering IT systems and data after disruptions if something goes wrong, right? Now, it is going to be something when we wanted to minimize the downtime and data loss while maintaining the service availability across the organization and for the respective business applications and systems altogether, right? So this is a pretty simple example and simple, straightforward way of understanding this one, right? Now, something like if the simple example again to if I'm going for an exam, I should carry 2 to 3 pens additionally, right? So that I can, if some or the first pen is not working or is not running as expected, then I should be using second or third so that I don't have to wait for someone to help me, or maybe I just have to ask for someone to give me an pen, right? So that is why we should do, or this is going to be mandatory, and in many cases this has been used across. There are some of the key concepts including RTO, RPO, right? So let's understand them one by one. So what is RTO and RPO, right? So these are the key concepts or core concepts, I would say, to those are applied for the BCP and DR scenarios, right? Now, if the data is lost and that was not available or backed up, right? Or that was not available into the DR site at all, right? That means we don't have data at all. Once the system goes down, everything is failure or everything was failed. That means we don't have system to recover and restore it back to bring the business on track, right? And that is why these are those factors or those objectives which we can accept on downtime and data loss, right? So maximum acceptable downtime and maximum acceptable data loss, right? Now we can set up what is minimum acceptable downtime. For example, maybe 3 hours or 1 hour or maybe 50 minutes, right? And similarly, minimum acceptable data loss. How much data can be lost, and if that is something the business can accept that loss, right? That is also something we should be setting up, and we should expect that as well, right? Expect as in, if the system is not recoverable and we have some options, but that is not guaranteed to restore the complete data and everything, but how much data loss we can accept, right? And that is why we have to put that parameter, put that RPO for that, right? Then high availability, which is a systems designed to minimize downtime at all, right? So this is going to be the system design, which should be completely available or 24/7 as and when needed for the business. And the next is resiliency, which is ability to recover quickly from any of those failures wherever there is such situations, right? And that is why we have to make sure the systems are built strong enough, those are available, and how soon we can recover from any of those such failures, right? And that is why we have to build the system in a way where it has a appropriate connectivity, appropriate systems and settings and configurations and everything together. Cloud BCPDR fundamentals. What is it? And even this is going to apply into the on-premises as well in some cases, but definitely this is something which we can make sure do it for every scenario. So starting from redundancy, replication, automation, testing, and compliance, right? So redundancy is going to multi-zone and multi-region deployment, wherever we would be putting out a different workloads across different zones and regions, let's say from India to US and vice versa. Similarly, replication should be real time or scheduled data replications, maybe every 2 hours, every 4 hours, or something like that. We would be replicating data real time, and then the system is going to be available for replication and for the restore and recovery whenever there is any failure. Automation, we can utilize Bicep or Terraform or plus runbooks in Azure context, but definitely the same is applied to different cloud platforms and multi-cloud platform scenarios as well. Testing, that is a must-have here because we should definitely test disaster recovery drills every minimum 6 months, but definitely that should be available and our organizations should test it and make sure that is available for them too. And the compliance, these are the few of the compliances regulations organizations are going to meet, or they would be meeting basically basis on their industry wherever they are doing business or in what industry they are in, for example healthcare or insurance or finance or anything, right? So they would be definitely achieving these compliances and they should have those compliances as well, and they should follow those compliances based on their industry and business. Now the same capacity or PCPDR applies into the infrastructure as a services. And we can see Azure, AWS, and GCP. I have put some of the key areas where we can bring it on, right? So into Azure, you can see Azure Site Recovery for VM replications, use recovery service vaults for restoration and enabling ZRS or GRS for storage and automate failure testing, right? So those are the few of those areas that we can bring on. Similarly, for AWS and GCP, Cloud Endure DR or Elastic DR for AWS and GCP DR for GCP Cloud, right? So these are the services which would be utilized and those can bring into the or by using the BCPDR strategies for us to implement. Now there are different services, different capabilities in each cloud. Those falls behind or those can be implemented with BCPDR. And I have put few of them over here so that you can understand it with the examples, right? But yeah, definitely there are many to go ahead and do that. PaaS, there are some of the PaaS managed services, including Azure has its few of them services, including app services. SQL, Cosmos DB, and onto the storage, right? So you can deploy multi-region via front doors, SQL auto failover groups for geo replications, and Cosmos DB multi-region writes and failovers, including RAGRS for regional failovers into the storage, right? So these are the some of the examples that I put together for PaaS. Similarly, those applies to the AWS as well as GCP and any other cloud, right? Now, cloud platforms are different in a way where they have different terminology, feature sets, and capabilities that they do provide. And similarly, they do also have regional capabilities or multi-regions or group failovers or something like that. So definitely that's worth checking and testing wherever you are going to apply, but it is going to be the same capacity and same concept that you can apply for. The next is AKS DR strategy, right? So this is going to be something multi-region AKS cluster using infrastructure as service or infrastructure as a code, geo redundant ACRs using disks and files with ZRS, backup via Velero or Cast and Keten in Azure Kubernetes or in Kubernetes traffic routing Azure front door, right? So it is pretty straightforward and simple to understand this way where we are going when we are going to build and deploy a strategy for AKS, right? And same thing for different cloud platforms as well, right? Definitely, it is going to be something that we should be going ahead and we should be deploying it in a way where we are going to achieve disaster recovery strategy, including a replication of systems and data and everything together, and backing up those clusters and respective nodes and respective configurations and images, auto traffic failover whenever there is a failure into the situations or the environment altogether. On the serverless and SaaS based scenarios, where you can see these are the serverless functions, SaaS and data and analytics situations, including functions or Lambda in multi-region deployments. Into SaaS, it is going to be built-in redundancy and API backup, and the underlying infrastructure is managed by the service provider, and the customer is going to manage data, identity, and systems, not whole system, but onto the application layer, right? So similarly, it is going to be for data analytics, which is going to be geo-replicated Synapses, Databricks, and data lakes in Azure context. So similarly for all the other different cloud platforms as well, right? So the simple understanding here is that whatever the cloud is, right, it is going to be the same where you are going to deploy and make sure it is multi-region deployments and available for automation redundancy, and it is going to achieve the business continuity and disaster recovery at the end. Testing, monitoring, and automation. This is something it's paramount. We cannot skip it at all, and we should have everything in built and baked in, right? So starting from disaster recovery drill automation with using Azure automation plus logic apps in the Azure context. Similarly for AWS Azure, AWS and GCP as well can be done. Monitoring Azure Monitor and App Insights, runbooks for automated failovers, and alerting to get notified with the tickets or any email notifications or anything that we can put together for all of such scenarios, so that respective team is being notified and they can go ahead and take appropriate actions before it is becoming a disaster, right? So these are the some of the main things and paramount capabilities of DR and BCP basically, right? So it is not something we just wanted to achieve DR, but we should also look into the BCP, which is of course a starting point, and then we can start with the DR or disaster recovery, right? Then there is a view of cost optimization and FinOps, or how we can implement FinOps into the BCPDR strategies, right? It's definitely something which is going to cost, or it is going to cost a lot when it is not planned appropriately, including kind of storage or workloads that we are going to host across the different region or multi-region capacity, right? So in that case, we need to decide whether it is a warm or cold standby capacities aligned to workload that is really critical for the business and systems and applications, right? Which is also automate scaling down for idle DR resources and tag DR resources for cost tracking and identifying those, aligning DR spends to the business priorities so that we know what is being cost for what reason, including and implementing FinOps capabilities like chargeback and showback as well, right? So that way it is going to be aligning and matching with the business units. Then some of the governance and compliance, definitely there's a framework for different governance capabilities, including ISO 22000, 27000, and SOC 2, and many others. And those would be applied based on the business and wherever they are doing the business in which industry, including security with the key vault and policies, maintaining their runbooks, architectures, and RACI matrices, right? So these are the capabilities definitely going to put the systems behind the governance and compliance put together, right? So we wanted to be intact with that as well so that we are not lacking behind and should not be fined by the compliance and regulatory authorities. And this is going to the future enhancements or future ready enhancements, I would say, by using chaos engineering with Azure Chaos Studio, AI driven DR orchestration. So that's something by using the AI capabilities, including uh, it could be any AI solution basically for automations and everything together. GitOps for configuring replications, hybrid and multi-cloud DR with Azure Arc, right? So that's something that is also happening now, but definitely that's going to be the future as well to enhance if that is not achieved yet, or if that is something which is not yet implemented by the organization. And in summary, you can start or understand this way. BCP is going to ensure continuity of the business and systems. DR is going to ensure the recovery of any of those failures, right? So in combination, it's going to be the automation, governance, and testing, right? So this is a combination of all those three together. And a simple quote to understand it this way is resilience is not built overnight, right? So it's engineered into every layer. So this means that whatever you are going to plan from the strategies to build a BCP and DR together, you have to start from the first and ground layer and then gradually meet that one, right? So this is going to be this straightforward to that way. And there are some of the questions, and maybe if you have questions or you can discuss it among your team or people. So these are the questions that I have put together. What's your DR maturity level? Do you test failover regularly? What's your RTO and RPO objective, right? So these are the few of those questions I have put, and definitely worth understanding and knowing this. Otherwise, BCPDR is not really been uh, maybe tested, or it doesn't have the enough maturity, or we are not following the core concepts or core objectives of RTO, RPO, right? So, yep, that is what I wanted to walk you through and make you understand about BCPDR in cloud environments, right? Hope you learned something new, understand these concepts thoroughly, and not understand, but you should be also able to understand and make the recommendations, work on these capabilities, and decide how you can go ahead and plan for it, right? So, yep, that is what for this video. Let me know if you have any questions, any doubts, and anything that you wanted to know about any of these topics or areas, and I'd be happy to answer any of those questions, right? So, yep, that's all for this one. Don't forget to like this video, share it to their friends, and subscribe to the channel as well so that everyone can get to know and they can learn also. So, yeah, that's all for this. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.